This is, or at least was, Payless shoe source. Unless you were born yesterday, you probably remember seeing this store in your local mall a few years ago. But in case your mama did just squirt you out recently, Payless was a discount shoe store. They didn't sell many recognizable brand names, but they had cheaply made knockoffs of all the most popular shoe styles, most of which were made of plastic and rubber that filled the store with this distinctive chemical aroma. Smells like phthalates and nostalgia. I remember being in the 6th grade and wanting a pair of Converse Chuck Taylors more than anything in the world, but they were like $60, which was a lot for a pair of kids' shoes back then. So instead, I got some $20 dupes from Payless, which were incredibly uncomfortable, and for some reason, the bottoms were coated with like this felt-type material, which made them slippery to walk in. I don't know, but a few years later, I got a real pair of Chucks, and turns out that they were really uncomfortable too, so maybe the dupes were better than I thought. But anyways, if you haven't seen a Payless shoe source in a while, it's because they went bankrupt back in 2018. But just before they went titties to the sky, they pulled off what may just be one of the greatest heists of all time. As part of a marketing campaign attempting to show that their affordable shoes were every bit as nice as expensive designer brands, Payless rented out an old Armani store, covered it in branding that said Palessi, and filled it with their $20 shoes, which they marked up to hundreds of dollars per pair. Then they invited a bunch of influencers to come see the hottest styles on display from this up-and-coming new designer and give their candid feedback on the shoes. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the influencers ate it right up. They complimented the design and quality of the shoes and even opened their wallets, shelling out $200, $300, even as much as $600 for a single pair of Payless shoes before being told what they had actually just bought. The goal of this ploy was obviously for Payless to try to show that their bargain shoes are every bit as nice as luxury brands, but it didn't work because they still went bankrupt. As fascinating as this campaign was, I don't think that it proved that cheap items are good as much as it proved that expensive items are often still shit despite their hefty price tags, and that people usually can't tell the difference because the perception of value is all a charade. And also that people are superficial and shallow and dumb. Especially influencers. But we already knew that. The fact is that in many cases, the price of an item has little to do with its quality or utility. Paying more for something is in no way a guarantee that you're getting a superior product because pricing doesn't typically reflect the true cost of producing an item. It's just based on what people are willing to pay for it. And again, this generally has nothing to do with the quality, necessity, or even usability of it. It's just about hype and public perception. I think nothing demonstrates this more clearly than the trendy water bottle phenomenon. A water bottle is probably one of the most boring, utilitarian items a person can own, yet somehow, over the last few years, we've seen expensive metal water bottles become a must-have fashion accessory, with people flocking to a new $60 tumbler every 6 months or so, despite the fact that they're all exactly the same, and that none of them are worth $60 fucking dollars. But of course, this is nothing new. For all of modern history, various products and brands and styles have risen to popularity and fallen just as fast based on nothing more than fleeting trends. And this is all because of something called social obsolescence. I think the idea of planned obsolescence is well understood by most people at this point. I've made several videos on it in the past, which I think are quite good if I may say so myself. But the TLDR of it is that companies intentionally manufacture products that are designed to fail after a set period of time and make them difficult, if not fully impossible to repair, so that you're forced to buy and rebuy things over and over again. It's scummy, it's wasteful, and honestly, I think it should be illegal, but it's not. It's extremely widespread. But social obsolescence is a beast all of its own. Social obsolescence is when something becomes outdated or undesirable, not because it's no longer functional or relevant, but because it's no longer trendy. This can happen in a positive sense due to shifts in social trends and values. For example, it being seen as shameful to wear fur, as it should be. The move away from single-use plastics would be another example of this. But more often than not, it's not about ethics or values at all. It's just about marketing and status. Social obsolescence is why it's so common for people to buy a new phone every year or two, despite the fact that the improvements between models are usually incremental at best. Social obsolescence is why in the last 20 years alone, we've seen pants go from ultra baggy to bootcut to skinny to straight leg, back to ultra baggy, and apparently soon back to skinny again, thank God. Social obsolescence is a strategic form of shame that's levied on consumers, intended to make us all feel like what we have is outdated and undesirable so that we constantly feel a need to upgrade, even if what we have still does the job just fine. It's also very effective at getting us to put certain brands on pedestals so that we willingly overpay for their products while completely disregarding and devaluing others that may be equal or even better in quality. Like, a $30 pair of department store sunglasses may look great on you and adequately protect you from UV rays, but they aren't Ray-Bans or Oakleys, and they're not $200, so ew. Wait, Ray-Bans. They ban the rays from your eyes. I literally just got that. Am I slow? And so to go back to the beginning of this video, an inexpensive retailer like Payless may sell shoes that you like every bit as much as more expensive brands. In fact, maybe without the label, you couldn't even tell the difference. But social conditioning has made shopping at a cheap store like that into a fashion faux pas. And while there could be a valid argument to be made if you were comparing Payless to a brand with higher ethical standards, like one who only used sustainable materials and manufactured their shoes in countries with fair labor standards, or really even just a brand that genuinely made good quality shoes that were meant to last years. But that's typically not what's happening. In most cases, you'll just be paying hundreds of dollars for a product that is just as poorly made as the cheaper alternatives, but just happens to be more popular and therefore more desirable. Nike is socially relevant, but Payless is not. Wearing a pair of Nikes signals that you're fashionable and cool and in the know. Wearing a pair of Payless sneakers signals that you're cheap, or poor, and a dork, despite the fact that both pairs were made by toddlers in a Vietnamese sweatshop. Overpaying for cheaply made crap is a scam, but do you know what's even worse? Data brokers. Data brokers are these scumbag companies who make bank collecting your personal information, like your name, address, and phone number, where you work, your relatives' names, and even really personal stuff like your medical and legal history and who you vote for. And they make this information available to literally anyone who has a credit card. This puts you at risk for things like identity theft, scams, phishing attempts, harassment, and even doxing. And the craziest part is that it's completely legal for data brokers to do this. That's why I've been personally using today's sponsor, DeleteMe, for well over a year now to help protect my privacy online. DeleteMe is a hands-free service that removes your personal information from hundreds of data broker and people search sites, reducing the risk of your valuable information getting into the wrong hands. They send you a quarterly report showing you everything they've found and removed so you can feel comfortable knowing that they've got your back. And because they use their own tech to do this rather than outsourcing to a third party, your data stays completely safe. DeleteMe has been the leading expert in personal identifiable information removal for over 15 years now, and they were recently named the #1 data removal service by Wirecutter. Head over to joindeleteme.com/Nicole or scan this QR code and use the code Nicole to get 20% off. And a big thanks to DeleteMe for sponsoring this portion of the video. Contrary to what you might assume, social obsolescence isn't a new thing. Not at all. In fact, it began way back in the early 1900s when mass production of consumer goods first started. And for the first time, people could compare their lifestyles to those of their neighbors. This is where the term keeping up with the Joneses was first coined. People could step outside and see that their neighbors had a nice new car on their driveway, or that their kids had fancy new bicycles or whatever, and they didn't want to seem like they couldn't keep up. And with that, social competition was born. Then after World War II, the production of goods really ramped up, and marketing went batshit crazy. Suddenly, every product was being sold with the implication that what you owned was a reflection of who you were. Surely, you didn't want to be the only one without a fridge or a color TV in your home. Everyone would think that you're poor, and that would be embarrassing. Fast forward to the 80s and 90s, and suddenly, everyone is brand crazy. Nike, Adidas, Calvin Klein, Gap, Tommy Hilfiger, everything becomes just about showing off a logo so other people know you're with it.
I used to be with it, but then they changed what it was. Now what I'm with isn't it, and what's it seems weird and scary to me.
I remember in the early 2000s, you were nobody if you didn't have a Von Dutch trucker hat. You'd be hard-pressed to find a celebrity who wasn't wearing one. Man, I wanted one of those shitty hats so badly. This was also when product placement in movies and music videos really started to take off. Also in the 2000s came Apple's rise to popularity. Prior to this point, they were kind of just a niche computer company for artsy nerds, but when the first iPhone dropped in 2007, it kicked off what would become one of the most culty consumer trends of all time, with people lining up overnight to be one of the first to get their hands on the new model every year. And I say that as an iPhone user myself. Mind you, mine is 6 generations old now, so I'm not cool, I guess, which is fine, but I think that's exactly my point. I've had many people react with surprise that I'm still using an iPhone 11 in 2025, especially as a content creator. Yet none of them have been able to give me a single good reason for why I should spend $1,000 to upgrade when it still works perfectly fine. My phone isn't outdated or broken, it's just socially obsolete, and I don't care. In the last decade or two especially, social media has turned this hyper-consumerist FOMO culture up to 11 because we're no longer just comparing ourselves to our neighbors and peers, but to strangers, influencers, and celebrities online. Not only are we being constantly exposed to a 24/7 barrage of subtle and sometimes not so subtle advertisements disguised as entertainment, but we're often forgetting that the people we see online could be in a completely different financial bracket than we are, or could have completely different needs for a certain product than we have, and in many cases have been given the product for free and maybe even paid to show it off. Which is to say that just because your favorite interior design creator gets a new couch every 6 months doesn't mean you're supposed to do the same. That sounds like common sense, right? So then why do so many people continue to fall for it? Behavioral science is a fascinating thing. Companies invest millions, sometimes even billions of dollars, into carefully crafting marketing strategies designed to override our ability to make good decisions. They do this in a few ways, using tactics like manufactured scarcity to make you feel honored to even have the chance to buy their product so that you throw your money at them with little forethought.
Are there any left?
There may be one.
If something is rare, then it's automatically special, right? And you want to feel special too, so you have to have it.
Shut up and take my money!
Then there's the false innovation cycle, where they release a new version of something that has been ever so slightly tweaked or improved in the most insignificant, unimpressive way, and then hype it up like it's the next big thing so you feel like you have to have it. Like, what do you mean your dishwasher doesn't have Wi-Fi? Fucking peasant. But beyond all of that, like I mentioned before, what this really comes down to is shame. It's not that having a 5-year-old phone or furniture from 2007 is shameful in and of itself so much as it's what it says about you, which is that you're poor, and being poor is shameful, or at least that's what we're supposed to think.
If I take that thing to school, everyone's gonna think I'm a poverty-stricken asshole!
Since basically the beginning of civilization, wealth has been used as the primary social divider, the main way of judging someone's character and even their worth as a human being. In fact, multiple studies have shown that people who are perceived as wealthy are often assumed to be more trustworthy and more competent and of higher integrity, which is interesting because it has actually been proven to be factually incorrect. I made an entire video about this last year, but the data actually shows us that often as people's wealth increases, so too does their propensity towards selfish and unethical behavior. Yet we continue to subconsciously put rich people on a pedestal and aspire to be like them. Specifically because we've been conditioned to see being poor as shameful and embarrassing. Why? So we keep buying more shit to avoid looking poor and being embarrassed. We've just gone full circle here, haven't we? So yeah, it's not that the old car or last year's phone or the cheap Payless shoes are shameful. It's the implication that that's all you can afford that's shameful. Which is awful because not only is being poor not a moral failure and not a statement of your character, but having the newest, most expensive version of everything isn't even necessarily an indication of your wealth. Especially in today's day and age, when consumer debt is so abundant and easy to access. Like, it's not that I can't afford to get a newer phone, it's just that I don't care about having a newer phone. If that gives the impression that I'm a pavo, I can deal, but I also know that many people are buying an iPhone 17 right now with debt. I also find it really interesting how social obsolescence moves and changes. Like 5 years ago, driving a Tesla meant that you were eco-conscious and probably a liberal voter. And then everyone realized that Elon Musk is a giant douchebag, which, I mean, I don't know how that wasn't obvious from the start. But then suddenly driving a Tesla became associated with being MAGA, which is the complete opposite. And then Elon and Donnie had a cat fight, and now no one likes Teslas, I guess? The product hasn't changed, but the public's perception certainly has. At the end of the day, I think social obsolescence can be used for good. Like I said at the start, it can be used as a mechanism to inspire people to make more ethical choices when it comes to the companies they support and the things they consume. I would love to see a world where it's considered shameful to litter and eat animals and wear Crocs in public. I think we need to bring back shame in certain regards. But as it's most often leveraged, social obsolescence is one of the greatest tricks that capitalism has ever pulled off. Instead of companies deliberately designing products that are made to fail and facing scrutiny for doing so, they can just pass the buck of accountability and make us all believe that if we don't have the newest, nicest, most expensive version of everything, we ourselves are obsolete because what we own determines who we are. And the treadmill never ends because even if you do have top of the line everything, in 6 months to a year, there'll be something new to chase all over again. And the only ones who win are the corporations, who are getting filthy rich and laughing their asses off at how dumb we all are as they watch us line up to hand over our hard-earned dollar dues for a slightly shinier piece of crap over and over and over again. But the solution here is simple. Appreciate the things you have. Take care of them, make them last, use them, enjoy them, and only replace them when you really need to. Because what you own says nothing about who you are, and to be honest, nobody cares about your shit anyways. If you like this video, like the video, subscribe for more. You can follow me on Instagram at according_to_Nicole. Don't forget to check out DeleteMe. The link will be in the description box down below. Use the code Nicole for 20% off. And leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. Let me know if you feel that social pressure always pushing you to upgrade and chase after new things, or how you resist that pressure. I think that it's human, and I think we all feel it some ways, but I think that learning to avoid it is a skill that you can hone, like a muscle you can flex. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys in this one. Take care, have a good one, and I'll see you next week.